And I walk over to something and Morris is there and he's with someone else. And he goes, Dino. He goes, you walk different. And I went, okay. And the girl next to me, she goes, that's a compliment. And he goes, you walk different than everybody else here. And it hit me in such a way, even now it gets me a little emotional, of like, it was like, oh, you just explained how I feel about my life. And I'm okay with that. I walk different and I'm okay. We were in our bedroom and she came out of the bathroom and she just said, I want you to know, I don't know how much longer I can do this. I don't think I could do another year of this uncertainty. And I was like, what? Like, this is the first time we'd ever had any discussion of like, this isn't working.
Mm.
If I'm blessed enough to be able to be in a bed when I die and pass away that way, the only thing that I will care about is the set of eyes that will be looking back at me. If it's all my kids, awesome, right? And my kids know this. There is a hierarchy in our home. And the one I care about the most are my wife's eyes. And so if I could live that way and end that my life that way, she'll know my story. I'll know my story. That's it. You were, and no offense to anybody out there that does this, but you were a dentist your whole life?
Oh, you had to go to dentist.
You went to dental school and like you chose something at 22 or 21 and now that's all you've done for 40 years. Oh, I'm sorry.
But in some ways, that's why I don't have a tattoo. Hey guys, welcome to the Sean Sias Show. We bring you strategies and stories to elevate your authentic influence. Today, I am excited that I get to interview you, Dino. In the kind of pre-interview session, if there's one thing that just stands out to me, it's that, I don't want to say it's just that you're like a maverick, but there's just such brilliance in so many different dimensions that you have. But before we dive into any of that, I just want to say, like, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You know, one of the things that does fascinate me, I love people. I love what makes them unique. I love what makes them distinctive. And I see a man that is accomplished. I see a man that's done a lot of different things entrepreneurial wise. And anyone that's embarked to do something entrepreneurial knows that there's some successes you can chalk up, but there's also lots of opportunities to fail. And yet through it all, you are a man that has done a great job fathering. You've done a great job being a husband. And I think that's commendable that in pursuit of success, you haven't lost sight of the things that have really, really mattered to you. Where did you get that? These are my priorities. I want to be a good man. I want to be a good husband. I want to be a good father. Where did that come from?
Well, definitely growing up in a broken home, I think was a part of that. I think in a lot of things in life, you either model or do the exact opposite of what you saw growing up, with your parents. And, my parents divorced when I was 8 years old and it was an ugly, awful divorce. And for years, couldn't have the two people that I loved the most, couldn't be in the same room together. Right. And I just was a student of relationships at that point, just going like, how is this not working? And what do we need to do? And I think also being a third child, I had two older brothers. I had to figure out dynamics pretty quickly. And all of us are so incredibly different in our personalities, which almost every kid is in a family. But I just kind of had to see where my strengths were and lean on those. And I learned early on that my strengths were in people. They weren't in intelligence in the sense of like math or reading. I have dyslexia. I didn't know that growing up. I was just thought I was dumb and I couldn't spell things. And so I would look at what worked. And oddly enough, television was a big deal for me. Television was my babysitter. And back in the 80s and 90s with TV sitcoms and stuff, I learned how it was cool how Chachi swoon Joni, right? And Happy Days. And I learned those type of things and went, oh, okay, I'm going to try that out. And it worked. And so when I saw it would work, I'd do more of that. But I was the guy even in high school where I had way more girls that were friends than girlfriends who would come to me for advice, who would talk to me about their relationship problems. I just feel like I've always had an ability to understand people and be able to be present with people enough that I could learn from them, but also be a calming presence. And I've always been a very positive person too. So it's funny, you say accomplished as a part of the characteristic of me. And it's so weird because I have almost a physical reaction to like accomplished, like, am I? Because there's so much that I haven't done, so much that I've been waiting to do. And yet I can understand that when people will look at my resume of what I've done and throughout my life, I've done a lot. And in some ways I probably have a little bit of this, not imposter syndrome, but that idea of what's that, master of, or jack of all trades, master of none. What have I mastered? And so when I look back at it, I've mastered being a good husband. I know I'm a really good husband, and I love that. I feel like I was a really good dad. I'm sure my kids could tell you stories, and maybe rebut that a little bit. But I felt like from what I saw growing up and what I had modeled for me, I've surpassed that. And that's the most important thing to me. I'll say this last thing, that there was a quote years ago, and it's equated to one guy, but I know it's not from him, but it's basically, the quote is, uh, no success outside the home will compensate for failure inside the home. And that was my motto for years. And I would say probably still is, but in that sense of, I allowed that also to be the thing, like, well, at least even if I'm not successful in business or outside the home, I'm going to be successful in my house. I'm going to be an awesome dad. I'm going to be an awesome husband. And that's going to be my focus. So that's probably where that came from and why I've had that as my focus. It's important to me. It really is.
I'm like, okay, there's like 20 different threads to pull on here. Just back to 8-year-old Dino.
Yeah.
I'm curious, as an 8-year-old, you probably don't know how to take a 360 view on what's happening with your parents. All you know is that the people in my life that are supposed to love each other and are supposed to be safe because they love each other, they're not loving each other and they're fighting. And that led to them getting a divorce at 8. So who knows what precipitated that? Was that like a 18-month where you could tell something was going on?
Oh, yeah.
There were like even formative memories when you're 4 or 5, or you're like,
Yeah.
something was off.
Yeah, there were trial separations. There were, so my sister was actually born after a separation, and I don't remember so much about that one. My sister's 3 years younger than me. But there was definitely the fights that you could hear, the arguments going on, which is really interesting because my dad, as I've known him as an adult, is really not a loud person and not a very argumentative person. But there was some arguments that I remember hearing through the bedroom wall and stuff like that. There were little moments that I either as an adult misremember or fantasize remembering because of stories that I've heard. But I knew there was problems. And I remember when my dad left, I remember being there when he left, packing up his car, and he drove away. And my friend from across the street, Michelle, came riding over on her bike, as she did often. And we lived in a small little town in Hesperia, California. And she came across and she could tell I was upset. And she's like, "What's up? What's wrong?" "Oh, my dad just left us and my parents got a divorce." She's like, "Oh, my dad leaves all the time. It'll be fine." And just kind of brushed it off. And I remember thinking, no, this is it. Like, this is the last time I'll have a family together. And it was. And that was the last moment. And it was very much a moment in my life that I know that that is the key to my why and what I do, everything I do now. And I believe everybody's why is attached to their childhood, something in their childhood. And I attach that moment of, I will not be this. I will not do this to my kids. And there was a lot of moments like that growing up and being the protector of my mom. And that's definitely where that root is from right there. But I knew it was up. I knew what was going on.
I was going to ask, someone that I interviewed and, have come to be really close to struggled with suicidality from a young age.
Mm-hmm.
But given the nature of that being so internal, that person didn't know that not everyone had those thoughts. Now, I guess this is probably so different because you can tell that it's visible that people are upset at each other, that things aren't positive. So I was going to say, like, in what ways did you know this just wasn't right? Like,
yeah, I think just the feeling of not hate, but not love. And I think as a kid, even 8 years old, you're seeking for that. You're seeking for that security and that comfort. And that wasn't there. I found it in my mom, right? I found it in other women too. My mom had a group of friends. We had the Durants and the Packards and stuff that we would go over to. And I was always the kid that found love from those women. And I was able to, I was little Dino and school teachers. One of my favorite teachers to this day is Mrs. Tillotson. And I remember being on the sidewalk right out when my parents were having a trial separation. And I was at school, and our school had, is a dirt playground. We didn't have grass. And I remember sitting there just sad and frustrated. And she came over and just started talking to me, knowing what was going on in our family. I'm assuming my parents had told her or something like that. And just started letting me know that I'd be okay and things were all right. And that, and it was moments like that. So I think every kid seeks after that love. So me knowing that that wasn't between the two people that were supposed to be the most secure in my life was very apparent. And then it got obvious. I mean, when my mom would say stuff about my dad, especially during divorce, and you'd have that argument. And I felt like I had to be the defender of my mom. Here I am at 8, 9 years old thinking like, I can help my mom. I can save her. And uh, it was a burden that shouldn't have been put on a kid, but definitely I could tell the difference through that energy.
So anecdotally, I've talked with lots of individuals, and oftentimes there's that subtle thing that creeps into kids. Like, is it my fault? Is somehow like,
Oh, sure.
am I the reason that we weren't good enough,
Yeah.
or something as to why dad left? Was there any measure of that you ever had to battle?
Oh, sure. There's actually a story I tell from the stage, excuse me, about my braces. So it wasn't during that time. I don't really ever feeling that when I was 8 or 9, but to cause my mom more pain was later on when I was 12, 13, when I got braces. And it's funny, my dad just brought this up recently. We were having a conversation, and my dad's got a couple of forms of cancer right now. And actually just texted me right before this about he's got a bypass surgery coming up. Sorry. And he mentioned the only time that he was ever really mad at me was during that time with the braces. So I was the only kid that got braces in my family. I had a supernumerary in my mouth, which I had to have a special operation for. And then my teeth were really jacked up. Like I had some really funky teeth. And they would fight every month about who was making that payment.
Mm.
And so I make this joke from the stage where when they say, you know, oh, it's not your fault that your parents are fighting. No, it totally was my fight, 100%.
No.
And that was where I was aware of that, of like I was causing that with him. And so I felt bad. And then I felt even more I needed to defend my mom because how did my dad put my mom through this pain and make me feel this way? And but for whatever reason, and probably because I was the baby boy of the family, I felt I really needed to defend my mom. And so my anger about that wasn't that it was my fault. It was that I was going to do, in some ways, be better than my dad and protect my mom the way that he couldn't. And then that became kind of my whole modus operandi for relationships in general was I was going to protect the female. And my sister, I was super protective of her, right? Even when she was being a rebellious teenager, I was like, I can be the dad. I'm 3 years older than her, right? I can talk to her. And I'm sure that probably had it's something I haven't really talked to her about, but I'm sure it had some ramifications in our adult relationship of me treating her like I knew better because I was 3 years older, you know? So yeah, I'm sure that has something to do with it.
I know there's always some aspect of like, my dad makes corny jokes, right?
Uh-huh.
And it's like, oh, I don't want to be like dad. You know, you're in high school and you're like, yeah, I'm never going to be like that. And it's something that's trivial, right? It
Right.
doesn't mean anything. But then all of a sudden you get older and, you know, Super Bowl with my brother and I, and all of a sudden he says something and I'm like, you're becoming just like
Totally.
dad.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's okay when it's trivial. You know, here you are, like you said, you either could have felt doomed initially by it, like, oh, well, this is where I come from.
Right.
So I'm just doomed with bad stock, you know, bad DNA. Or like, I'm not going to be that. But even in your resolve to not be that, was there any time along the way when there was hardship or there was challenge where all of a sudden there was the demon, so to speak, whispering to you, like, yeah, you're going to be just like him. It's in you. Like almost like a whispering, like, you know,
Yeah.
Star Wars, you know, like Luke feeling like he's going to somehow be like
right.
Vader,
Be like
you
Vader.
know?
Right. You know, what's funny is I think probably more so with my stepdad than my dad. I don't, and I would say this before as if like a woe is me or like that jerk of my dad. I don't recall a lot of lessons from my dad growing up of how to be a man, how to be a father, he wasn't there when I'm from 8 to 18. He really wasn't there. I saw him on the weekends and stuff like that. And I was visiting him. My stepdad came along when I was about 12 and he was 13 years younger than my mom. So that meant he was only, I think it was 8 years older than my oldest brother when they got married. Yeah. Crazy. He was 24, I think. And my brother was 16. Right. So not that.
So he's
And
closer to your brother than your mom in age.
yeah. Yeah. And he took on 4 kids. Right. And so
Wow.
he was a very outgoing. He was a theater guy, even though he worked construction and his parents were construction, and it was kind of like a family thing. But he taught me a lot of good things about how to court and how to love on my mom. And my mom was not a very easy person to love, but he was able to do it to a point. And so I think I saw a lot of that, of how he would, in some ways, almost overly do it to where I would see that and be like, okay, I got to pull back a little bit from that. So I didn't really learn a lot from my dad, unfortunately. And I'm sure the things I can look at learning from my dad were things like he was always a hard worker. He always found odd jobs. He had a college degree, but he was a police officer for a while and he did construction and he was a machinist in Vietnam War. So he learned how to do stuff with hands. So stuff like that are things when I hear people talk about, oh, my dad taught me how to do woodwork or how to do, nope. Like, nope. Later on in life, he was very helpful. He helped me remodel a kitchen and stuff like that. That was his way of contributing. But as a young man, I definitely don't have any memories of how did I learn that from my dad. Seriously, I know it sounds so crazy, but if I really look back on the things that I learned, it was totally from television. Like how did Mr. Drummond teach the boys, and how did Mrs. Garrett talk to the girls? And whatever. Like those of you that don't know those references, look them up. But that's how I learned was the morality of television and those dads back in the day. And that's pretty, I have never really talked about it that much and thought about it that deeply, but yeah, that's pretty much where it was from. And other men, I will say this, there were other men in my life. There was a gentleman who is basically like I looked at him as a father figure when my mom and dad divorced. He was in the neighborhood. He lived across the street from my wife. My wife and I have known each other since we were 5 years old. So my wife lived behind me, catty corner, and across the street from her was a guy named Tom Martin. He was just a rough and tumble, like salt of the earth guy, worked on the railroad, literally worked on the railroad. And he became the guy who, when we needed discipline or when my mom needed some support, he is who we would go to. And he's who I looked up to as like, oh, he loved his wife and they had a little challenging of a relationship. But he was definitely somebody that I was like, oh, be like him, be like Tom. And there were probably some other men in my life too that I felt the same way about.
So I know for me, somewhere between 14 and 15,
Mm-hmm.
things like freshman year in high school, I don't want to say like I finally became self-aware because like I knew I had cognition. Like that's not what I'm saying. Like it's like I finally started seeing maybe the world for more of what it was and understanding. Like for me, even seeing my friends, it's like everyone graduated like middle school and it's like they'd say the corny thing. If by the end of freshman year, you'll know who your real friends are. And the crazy thing was so many of my friends' lives like literally like unraveled freshman year because their parents were getting divorced. Or all of a sudden they realized their parents didn't love each other or love them as much as they thought they did. And it just seems like whatever harshness was the reality of your life, you started to see beyond just the rosy because you started to understand more about life. What was like the narrative that you told yourself whenever you started like understanding life? Was it like, I'm Dino and I come from a divorced family and I wish I could have known my dad? Was it, I saw my mom suffer and get left and I'm like, I'm never gonna like, meaning what was the story you told yourself about what happened to you? Because people can take those circumstances and be like, I'm a victim or like, that's the chip. And because later you said you feel like what happened in your childhood was so formative as far as taking you on that direction where all of a sudden you have the business of marriage. You believe that, it's against what? Suicide, divorce.
My mission?
Yeah.
To reverse the direction of divorce, addiction, and suicide. Yeah. Yeah.
So it seems like it was a healthy narrative that you told yourself.
Yeah, I really did. I mean, I don't remember you mentioned that age range, right? 12, 13, 14 years old. That's when I was first coming into the idea that like, I knew I liked performing. I knew I liked to be in front of an audience. I knew I liked the stage work and stuff, but that was never a thing that was allowed from my dad. Like boys played sports. Yeah. And I did my first play when I was 13, and that's why I really fell in love with it. Mrs. Tillotson again, who put me in a play, and I was like, people will laugh at me.
Okay,
what
was the play?
It was, I don't remember the name of the play, but I played a space alien that came down and I lip synced to Don Henley's Dirty Laundry. And people were laughing, and I was like, this is so cool. Like, this is great. And I remember I became like the star student because the two leads, I think it was like Tommy and something, they were absent for a day. And I knew all their lines. And I told Mrs. Tillotson, I'm like, well, I can do Tommy's part because I know his line. And she's like, okay, well, what about whoever? And I was like, whatever the girl's name was like, I know hers too. And she's like, how do you know these lines?
That's not common.
No, I just remembered them because I had dyslexia. I had to memorize pretty much everything in school. Like I hear it and I can recall it pretty well. You give me information, you let me watch a video, and still to this day, I can recall stuff pretty well because.
Hence the being mentored by TV.
Yes, totally. Yeah. It was like I took those lessons. I'm like, oh, I get that. I understand that. I only need to hear it once. We didn't have reruns back in the day, or at TiVo or whatever TiVo. There's another thing. I love TiVo. Netflix. So I during that time of 12, 13, 14, I just remember being okay with, I want to have fun. I'm not going to get by on my smarts. I know that. I'm going to get by on my people skills and how I can connect with other people. I'm going to have as many friends as possible. And I was friends to everybody. I had the heavy metal hard rockers that were out in the smoking section as buddies, as well as the football team and the cheerleading team. And I was on the cheerleading team in high school, and I was in the choirs, and I was in the drama. I was going to be friends with. There wasn't a lot of people I wouldn't be friends with. There was a few bullies that I had that were really bullies to me, like peeing on my shoes and stuff like that, right? Terrible guys. But it never made me feel, I always felt like my friendships would allow me to have people who would support me more than I had bullies. And so during that time in my life, junior high and stuff, I was just getting into the groove. I remember I ran for seventh grade treasurer, which I had no business doing math for anything, but it's seventh grade. So there's nothing really going on. Not like they're going to get audited. Yeah. But I ran for that. I remember being a part of the student body so that I could be a part of the dances and help people decorate. And I just wanted to be social. I really enjoyed being around people and connecting with people. And that all being said, the narrative around my parents was also, I look back now and I see the victimhood that I put on of, yeah, I don't have it. Because there weren't a lot of divorced kids where I grew up. Oh, yeah, my dad, he's a jerk. And yeah, my parents are divorced. And it kind of made me stick out. Kind of like wearing braces. Not like kids had braces. I was the odd one. Cool. I didn't think of that as bad. I remember watching a Brady Bunch episode and they're like, oh, brace face. I'm like, dude, that's totally cool. Like, I want those. So it was a really interesting narrative. At home, it was fine. There was, my dad was an entrepreneur. He's a concrete contractor, my stepdad. There were a lot of narratives that came out of it. Like my real dad didn't pay child support apparently for my mom, right? That's the narrative we had. We didn't have any money, but we lived in a really nice house, but it was because we built that house over 2 years by living in, no joke, a 5 by 10 foot trailer in the backyard of that lot that we were building with no running water, electricity from the neighbors, and an outhouse. Like that's how we lived.
Okay. And how old were you during this time?
We were 12, 13, 14. Yeah.
Okay. How can that not massively shape your perception of life or
it's resilience? Right? Yeah. It's just like, okay, like even now to this day, I think that's part of it of me going like, okay, I mean, I lived in a freaking trailer. I can live anywhere. Literally in one of the coldest winters of the high desert I've ever seen. My stepdad was a very hard worker. Both my dads are very hard workers. So I know that I saw that I didn't want to work the hard that they were working. I did not want to do construction. I did not want to, it's funny because I kind of see a little bit of past of my dad, of him having different jobs and different careers. And I've definitely done that too. But hard work has never been the problem. The problem that I realized as an adult was I was taught that you have to work hard in order to make money. And so if I'm not working hard and not sweating from my brow, then it's not worth it. And that was really hard growing up, especially as a young father and as I got a little bit older, of getting to that place of realizing, oh, I don't have to torture myself in order to make money. It doesn't have to be hard work. It just says I have to be determined. And so that was modeled for me with hard work. But yeah, it was that was an interesting time in my life. I had a great time in high school. I loved high school. I did everything I possibly could other than study in high school. I know I graduated high school because I was really nice to teachers and they liked me, not because I got any sense of good grades. I was in every social thing I could be. Like I said, I was the cheerleader. I was a high school mascot. I was in every play. I was in the senior play when I was a freshman in high school, right? I was in the show choir. I did everything I could. I was a total geek and I loved every moment of it.
Yeah. Now, this is a time when EQ is not like a thing.
Oh, yeah.
People aren't saying like it's just IQ. It's not like, oh, by the way, this will serve you in life if you have EQ. When do you feel like in your life you all of a sudden realized, oh my gosh, they're putting a name on something that I've had that's been a gift of mine? Because it seems like you knew then it was still connecting with people.
Sure. But I thought I'd be a bum after high school, right? Because everybody taught you if you didn't go to college, you're going to be a loser. My parents never pressured us to go to college, never really pushed anything beyond high school. And my religion was serving missions. And so doing that. But other than that, there was no pressure. So I just thought, I just knew I couldn't live in a cubicle and I couldn't work for somebody. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know this thing called entrepreneurship. So I really kind of, when I started learning about emotional intelligence, it was probably in my late 20s. I wanted to, I felt I was really good at marriage. And early on in my marriage, I remember going to a YMCA close to our house. We were just there at the park, and I saw a sign for somebody doing a marriage boot camp. And I went, I want to do that. I want to teach that. I could teach people about marriage. My wife and I were the couple that we had plenty of friends who got married around the same time as we did. And we would be the house that on Saturdays and Fridays and sometimes Sunday nights, we'd have friends over who are like, how do you still love each other? We hate each other. What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, and we would be the counselors, right? And so I thought I could do this, but I'd been married like 3, 4 years at the time. So I'm thinking, who's going to listen to me? It took me until I was married about 13 years to go, all right, I have something to say. I think people will get this. But that was when I probably started seeing, I get people. I understand people. I've never had any major enemies in my life. I've never been, in a situation where I couldn't calm down a situation and help people. Um, I can look back now and go, I could have probably been a pretty good counselor or a therapist.
I was literally just going to say, like, the idea of the spirit of counsel, where to know that you love well, understand people, or understand the people in your life is one thing.
Yeah.
But then to be able to actually know how to apply it to someone else's circumstance.
Yeah.
Or to have the wisdom or discernment to see and again, actually give good counsel
Yeah.
that leads to a breakthrough, that leads to a transformation. Those aren't always synonymous. Like those don't always line up. Where someone could be a great husband, great father, but it doesn't mean they can. And it's not even just about teaching.
Right.
It's like actually about giving the right word at the right time that's going to help someone get unstuck or get that.
And that's
breakthrough.
weird to me. It's weird to me that people don't see it. Like I'll sit there and look at relationships and be like, how are you not seeing this right now in front of you? Like that's literally right there. And I I know it's a skill that I have, but I don't recognize that not everybody can have that. And I love it when I'm talking with somebody and I'm like, well, you see that this is this and that's that, right? And they're like, what? No. I'm like, oh, how did you not see that ahead of time? But it's been something that served me my whole life. It's really, I believe, a gift, and I'm grateful for it because I feel like there are a lot of little skills and talents that I have, but I can apply that to almost anything. So for example, when I got into orthodontics, I was able to go, hey, leaders, do you not see that this is happening? And I could kind of look back and just sit back and just go like this, and this, change that. And it would be helpful if they do it. Right. And they always say was that the cobbler's kids' shoes are always the one that aren't finished or whatever. Right. I have to look at that in my own relationship too. And I do feel like there's been something really powerful about me going, how am I applying that to me first? So I can talk with that integrity to say, well, this is what I do in my relationship or I've done to get to this place. I just did a newsletter last week about this thing called a marriage mastermind that I haven't talked about in years, but because it's Valentine's Day, I wanted people to focus on their relationship. And the marriage mastermind is basically a meeting with your spouse where you go over some very specific things so that you can have good communication and clarity in your relationship. And Shannon and I haven't done a marriage mastermind in a couple of years, but it's because it's a part of who we are now. Whereas most people, you have to get them into that space of going, well, here's an idea to do this, and they can practice it. And now it becomes more regular and regular. Whereas for us, it's like, yeah, that's just what we do.
I was literally just here with like a guys group this week. Someone sitting in my right, 2 people there. And one of the fathers was basically, I don't know why I said fathers, one of the husbands, because it's about his relationship. He was just asking me some questions about like, well, how do I do this? Or how do I do that? Or how do I even, and I realized as I'm thinking, I'm like, man, there's so many business books about culture. And yet I didn't quite understand it in the business context because I've never had maybe a big enough team to get it. But in my marriage and in our family, we have a culture.
Mm-hmm.
And in that culture, you don't have to think twice about, you don't have to bring the same level of intentionality of doing a marriage mastermind because it's part of your culture. You've already made it that way.
Yep.
So when someone on the outside's like, oh, but I don't even understand the basic premise or foundation because it's like alien to me. It's like,
yep.
Oh yeah, we've built this through all the things that we've just, the groundwork that we laid that we maybe didn't even realize was different.
Right.
Or distinctive. Did you ever have one of those moments where, or maybe it was early on because people were telling you that they still didn't love their spouse, that you realized like, wow, this is something that I have, I don't know, that is a gift or that has value?
Well, I
like the stewardship of your marriage.
Yeah, I knew that it had to be intentional. right? Going back again to my parents of going, I don't want that. I don't want that. So Shannon and I have, like I said, known each other since we were 5. We dated off and on through high school. We had very important conversations before we got married about everything. It fascinates me to this day when I talk to couples and they'll say something about they're having a disagreement about, I don't know, something simple. How many kids we're going to have? You didn't talk about that before you got married? Oh, no, we just figured we'd figure it out. What are you talking about? That's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Why would you go into business going, what's the goal? What's the goal of our business? To make money, right? How much money do we want to make? Do we want to sell this one day? Do we want to?
No, Dino, we'll just figure it
We're
out.
going to figure it out. I'm just like, what are you talking about? This doesn't make any sense. Doesn't compute.
Brendan Burchard would always say the time to have the
The
map.
map is before you enter into the woods. Exactly. I'm just like, what are you talking about? Culture, every business, every home has a culture. How that culture is designed is based upon how intentional you are, and it will evolve. Cultures evolve. The culture of my wife's and my relationship started pre-marriage with the questions we had asked each other, even if they were uncomfortable, but just so we can get on the same page of like, okay, I don't agree with that. I don't want to do that. There were some things where I was like, we're gonna have to table that because I don't know the answer to that, but it's not a deal breaker type question. We'll just have to get to that later on. In business and marriage, I talk about this idea of every business has a culture and it's typically designed by the person with the strongest personality, if it's not intentional. So if you have a business and a practice that you go into and you see that it's not a cohesive culture, it's usually run by the person who has the strongest personality. And that's not the person who typically has the most at stake. So in a relationship, it's the same thing. And you see this with people. My wife and I have this joke still. We will hear from couples. Like, for example, I'll be something super superficial, but it's true. It's like, oh yeah, I got my allowance from my husband and I had went over my allotted amount. I go, Shannon, I'm like, I could do that. I could give you, I could give you an allowance. Was this what? Or, oh, my wife said that I couldn't go to this thing or couldn't do this thing. What? You could do this? Like, it's not even a thought in my head to be like domination over this thing. I get it. I understand, especially in any relationship that has any like focus of God or Christianity. In my world, when I grew up Mormon, of this like, okay, there has to be somebody who has the say. But there are some things that come across that I'm going, where did that come from? Like, where was the conversation in that? How does that at all feel like that person is going to love me because I made that decision with them as opposed to opposed to them? So I just think that there's a deliberate focus on building the culture in your home. For me, it was, even in having kids, what type of dad did I want to be? How did I want to interact with them? How did I want to connect with them? Because I definitely didn't see it with my dad again. I don't remember a time playing with my dad. The only time I ever remember in my life having a real interaction with my dad was my brothers were in Boy Scouts and my dad was a part of the Scout Master group and they were doing the Pinewood Derby. My dad's very crafty and I was out in the garage and I saw him doing the Pinewood Derby, like shaping it. And there was a compass there. And my dad taught me how to read a compass. Never eat shredded wheat. To this day, I tell them, I never eat, where am I at? Never. And like, that was it. I don't have a lot of, my dad taught me this. I remember my dad making me go weed the yard. I remember my dad, doing things for us. Like he built a racetrack for my brother and stuff like that in our backyard. But that made me then, as a dad, go, okay, what type of dad do I want to be? I want to be a dad that gets on the floor and plays with my kids. I want to be a dad who throws them in the air and tosses them around and causes damage. I want to be that guy. So I was, and it wasn't because I modeled this, because of what I wanted it to be and what I saw the results were from them of how they connected with me. And today now as an adult parent, which nobody tells you about that. You only have a 16-year-old, your oldest, right? Okay. Everyone talks about the teenage years and how challenging they are, right? And how, teenage years, toddler years. No one says a word about adult children years. And it's the worst. I would go back to teenage years in a heartbeat because you at least can take away a phone. You at least can send them to their room. You can at least cut off their allowance for their car or whatever, right? As an adult, you just have to sit back and watch the slow motion train wreck happen and you have zero control over anything. My wife and I have a saying, which is, and we learned it from a friend of ours who's a therapist, we're not part of that committee. And that's a hard thing to do, to sit back and go, not on that committee. I'm not on the committee of my daughter getting married. I'm not on the committee of my son's college or job, homelessness, whatever it's going to be. I'm not on that committee. I can't be. So those things are what I try to do is look at and go like, what's the cause and effect to this? Some of it's worked, some of it hasn't. But yeah, that's where we build our culture and our family is. My culture is really based around, I want my wife to be happy. And because when she's happy, I'm truly happy. It's so cliche, happy wife, happy life. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I think you had mentioned in our pre-thing about giving good to people, right? If you want to, it's like you got to also be able to receive the good. But man, when you give that good, when I see my wife thriving, when I see my wife happy, then of course it's going to make me happy. Of course I'm going to want to do more of that thing. And so my biggest lessons have been in the times where she hasn't been happy and when she has had to call me on my crap and had to make me man up about certain things. So
Okay, I was like, we're just gonna go there.
yeah.
Dino, there's a million things going through my head.
I know I talk way too long. Sorry.
No.
Long answers to your short questions.
No. It's just that like the adult children thing was fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's
There's a part of love that I saw in my mom where it's almost like sometimes she was on the committee and maybe she shouldn't have, but other times it was like, I don't know if it's boundaries. I don't know. And she didn't care. It was more like, I love you too much to not be involved, or like, I'd rather put our relationship at risk, but tackle you to save you from the cliff.
Wow.
Because I don't need to be liked, but love compels me. And I saw that at times, and I'm sure that can get taken a million different ways. That's not right. But where I wanted to go was, I truly think the hardest thing in the world is actually marriage. Now, it doesn't mean everything's hard. It doesn't mean every day's hard. I think it's the most rewarding. But Hollywood shows people supposedly what falling in love feels like. Yeah. And then it ends the movie.
Right.
It's the feels. Sure. It's the I want you, you want me. It's consensual. Yeah.
They lived happily ever after.
And yet there's this long refrain in silence of what does it look like to stay in love? What does it look like to nurture, to cultivate, to steward love? As men, sometimes we're into conquest. And I've seen so many men, and I've been guilty in certain measures myself of, I got the woman, and I know it's an amazing woman. And I felt so proud just the fact that I got an amazing woman. And then I almost went on to the next thing, which was I need to now take care of this woman and provide.
Right.
While not necessarily always having her emotional needs be first and foremost.
Yeah.
And I lost sight of some of those things, and I stumbled and at times screwed up. Did you ever, like, it sounds like you didn't move on from the conquest of still taking care of your wife, treating her as that princess, making her number one. I want to get in. Tell me about the darkest time.
Yeah, to a fault though. So that's been probably my biggest challenge in our relationship. It's something that we've talked about quite a bit, even recently, is I have spent my entire life focused on making sure that she feels loved, she feels wonderful, she feels sexy, she feels all those things, right? And that I'm a good guy. To a fault of not saying, okay, I got that. Now I'm going to conquer business and I'm going to be super successful there. And I didn't do that because I thought, well, since I have this, that should be enough. And I have the relationship that I want, that should be enough. And what I've learned a lot of recently, and I had to learn at another point too, which I'll talk about, but is that she's good, right? Like I can be okay with she's good. Now go and conquer the security part of it. So in my business marriage program, I used to teach that there's two main drivers for men and women. You know, they say like you can't figure out men and women. Oh, how do you do? No, there's two main drivers. And I think, and no one's been able to convince me otherwise over the last 20 years I've been teaching this. For women specifically, men are a little bit easier. For women specifically, the first and foremost driver for women. And when I say driver, I mean, what's going to motivate them? What's going to keep them? What's going to make them want to stay? I used to make the joke about for men, and what's going to make them be okay wearing the ugly Christmas sweater for the Christmas card like type thing, right? To do the embarrassing things. The number one driver for women is security. Security emotionally, spiritually, financially, physically, mentally. In those 5 areas. If they can be secure in those areas, they're good.
They'll blossom.
They're good. The second driver is validation. What you're choosing is good, and I support it. If you want to be a stay-at-home mom, if you want to be a career person, whatever, I support. Now, there's a conversation that you can have about priorities of what you both have around that. But if you can help them have that, then that will make them feel motivated. I was doing a lot of the security and validation, but in the security, those 5 categories. Mentally, yep. I would tell her, like, I got you. I'm here with you. We're on the same page. Spiritually, yep. We're there together. Physically, I mean, I'm not going to go beat up some dude. Sometimes I feel like we have a joke that she's very vocal about things. And she does that, not realizing that I can't beat up most guys. Like, I just don't have that skill set. I'm not Liam Neeson. I don't have the skill set. But but physically enough that, she knows that. And then emotionally, yeah, I got her. Financially is where I failed. And I failed often in our relationship. And that's been our biggest struggle, is me being able to secure her in a way that she's like, okay, I don't have to worry about the bills. I don't have to worry about that. And there have been times in our life where it's been no problem. It's been like abundant. And there's times where it's like, oh, hey, what's up? Right. And that's been where I've struggled a lot. And the two that I recall the most, times where I knew I had to whip it in shape, was we had gotten back from a road trip that we did in 2013 with our kids around the country for a year. It was a big dream of hers. We did it. We did it on a shoestring budget. It was an amazing trip, though. We got back, and about 3 months later, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to be doing, and I was still struggling financially a bit. And she came out of the bathroom. We were in our bedroom, and she came out of the bathroom, and she just said, I want you to know, I don't know how much longer I can do this. I don't think I could do another year of this uncertainty. And I was like, what? Like, this is the first time we'd ever had any discussion of like, this isn't working. I knew things weren't working in some cases, especially financially. I mean, we had talked about beforehand, I've gone through repossessions of cars. I've gone through a total crash in my economy and stuff. I had to go door to door knocking for, not for money, for sales. But this was the first moment where it was like, you need to understand, I have a line. And I went, ooh. And I realized for the first time that line.
You'd been married?
We'd been married now, had to be 16, 17 years, okay, easily. And that line in that moment was bigger than my love for her. And I didn't realize, I'm like, oh, like we've talked about before too, like love isn't always enough. And in that moment, I was like, oh, so my adoration and my love and my being a nice guy isn't enough? Shoot. And I quickly turned around. That's when I actually very quickly got in more into deeper coaching, got into ortho, changed our whole business around. And so there were those moments where I realized that. And then still now, like here we're empty nesters and stuff. There are certain things we want to be able to stop doing in life at a certain point, and we're not prepared for that. So we're going, okay, how are we figuring out now there's a little bit more of a team effort because the kids aren't there anymore. So we can do this together, which is fun. But still causes, stress. We went through just this last year, I've talked, we bought a business, a chiropractic office. It's a disaster. It was not good. It wasn't what it was supposed to be. I'll say that. And we've been able to turn it around enough to where we're selling it, but it wasn't what we expected. That causes some stress and some, what do you figure? But now we're in a place too of how do we figure this out together as opposed to it's all on me, which has been good. But yeah, those are some pretty dark times, and money has definitely been a thing that I've had to get over. I grew up a very, very not abundant mindset. You had to work hard, like I said. Rich people were all crooks. Like that was taught to me. Rich people are crooks. How could I ever become rich then? Because I don't want to be a crook. So there's a lot of that mindset stuff that comes into it. And in a marriage, that's been a challenge. I'll say one last thing. What was with not a dark moment, but what? When we were on our road trip with our kids had seen the up and down. We were very open with our kids, not to scare them, but let them know, hey, things are tight right now. We don't have that type of money, that type of stuff. We were I don't know where we were. We're driving in the car, and the way we had it set up, we had a big truck with a king cab, and kids were all in the back with our dog. We were driving down one day, and we were talking about the future life. And I was mentioning about my kids being entrepreneurs. And I think it was my middle daughter said it first, Avery. She goes, oh, wait, no, we don't want to do what dad does. And I'm driving. I'm like, what did I just hear? And then Hayden, my son, goes, oh yeah, no, I do not want to do what dad does. And then Hannah's like, oh, absolutely not. I was like, listen, are you kidding me? This is why we're being able to do this. We're free. We're on the road. And then they said, we've seen what you go through. We don't want to go through this. And I was like, oh, I get it. Oddly enough, my middle daughter, the one who started it, is a total entrepreneur now. Is killing it on social media and an influencer and has a business and all this stuff. But it's definitely been my biggest Achilles heel has been financially.
Oh, I'm just like, you're hitting me here because like, I'm thinking like, yeah, my dad went from corporate working for M&M's. That's why he always has a story where he was responsible for creating cavities and
And now
going to
he
get into
helps them.
dental. And when he walked away from that, we went from a really big house to a 2-bedroom, like, townhome, and he gave us kids the master bedroom because they just wanted us to have that space. And
So
just the other day, I was talking with, my wife's parents, and they're like, tell us about, we're all recounting the favorite house that we'd ever lived in. And, talking about, like, the biggest house here, and someone was in this $1 million home here. And I mentioned the townhome because that was the season of my life where I got so close to my brother and sister because we all got to be in one room. And in some ways, there was like the townhome had access to, like, tennis courts and a basketball court and a pool we didn't have to take care of that was really big, and all these
right.
kids that wanted to play tag all the time. And
Yeah.
it was just amazing. Um, but I bring that up because, like, I saw my dad take risks, and a lot of them didn't pan out in the beginning. But yeah, I saw that as, like, I wanted to be an entrepreneur
Mm.
because I don't know, I was proud of my dad for doing that, you know? Um, but one of the things I really wanna know, I really, really, really wanna know, 'cause you're saying finances, and man, finances have been something where I feel like I'm the richest person in the world except for money.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
Like, I've got the wife and the kids and the relationships,
Listen,
and
I've always said if I could get paid to love on my wife, I would be so wealthy. And she goes, well, there is a website out there now where you can. I'm like, no, but like PG.
you could get paid to love on other women. No, sure. So take me into this moment then, because here's 2008,
Yeah.
and maybe, I mean, I'm assuming that because finances was a struggle, that if there was ever a, what is it, chink in your armor around security or feeling insecure, it could be that I'm not a good enough provider or
Oh,
something.
sure.
So now all of a sudden, 2008 happens.
Mhm.
You had done a good job to amass some wealth, and now all of a sudden things are cranking and it all comes crashing down.
Mhm.
I'm not as interested in the all comes crashing down part in terms of how do you pick yourself back up, but, like, tell me about a conversation with, how are you looking at your wife? Like, are you able to look her in the eyes, um, when everyone's gone to bed and it's just you and her? Do you feel exposed? Like, what's going
Yeah.
on in those moments?
She never made me feel not okay about it. Like she's like, okay, figure it out. Right. And that was always kind of her thing of like, okay, I know you'll figure it out. But there was fear. You say going to bed. I remember many a nights where I was not in bed, where I was, and I tell my kids this sometimes. There are times where I was praying over the toilet because it was the only quiet place in the house. I wasn't going to disturb people and just being like, I don't know what to do here. I am freaking out. I have no skills. I didn't go to college. What am I going to do? Like, it was really just fear. So between us, though, hers was always, yeah, you'll figure it out. And I know part of it, if I would probably ask her now, and a lot of it was grin and bear it from her. Just be like, I don't know, she was scared too. But because I wasn't willing to sit back and go, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to figure out, just going to wait until something comes along. I was asking people, I was putting stuff out there that even when it was like, hey, we're going to have to pack up our house and we're going to move and live in a 2-bedroom apartment in Costa Mesa. Yeah, that's what we're going to have to do. And she's like, okay, we'll make the best of it. And she would make it fun. My wife is so resilient about stuff. My kids, I would bet, had the same experience as you. They had the free pool. They had other kids around. My wife would go and find what are the free things to do in Orange County that you don't have to pay for. She would go and do this with the kids. They thought we were living high on the hog because they were going on vacation every day. I remember coming home and she would have something made for me to eat when I got home at like 9 o'clock at night. And I'd hear this reports of my kids going, to San Diego Zoo and riding on elephants and going on. I'm glad everybody else having a great time while I'm suffering out here. But that's where that moment coming out of the bathroom and me sitting on the bed and her saying that, that's where I knew it was serious then. Because she was able to get through all of that stuff and get through it. And she finally got to the place where I can't do this anymore. I'm going to be tired. Like, you got to figure this out. So, I always hate it that there's this feeling that she always says, I have to put my foot in your butt, right? To do it. You're my boot in your butt to do it. I'm like, yeah, I know. One of the things about me too is that because I've never been a super crazy ambitious person. I haven't been driven by anything other than her love and other than making sure my kids are okay. So I'm not driven by getting the cool car, going on cool vacations. And we're going to make that happen. Like I'll sacrifice getting a nicer house or a nicer car so I can go on vacation and visit other places in the world. I mean, the place I've been able to go in this world has been amazing, from Africa to Japan to Peru to like, it's been amazing. And that's because we've been intentional about that's the thing we focus on. Going back to what you were saying earlier about the culture thing and how we set that up. One of our things was putting together core values in our relationship before we got married and then during building some more. And one of our big core values is experience over things. That probably came from a place of going, we have no money, so we can't get things. So experience, let's go to the park. But that has allowed us to then make that a focus for everything we do. And I'll say this, I think people right now would see us. I have a very nice home that we live in. We built 4 years ago. And I know people would be like, okay, Dino, look at the nice house you have and experience over things. And we both are okay not having that house. We would be okay being like, yeah, we could live anywhere. I mean, we've lived in a trailer. We've lived in small little apartments. Like, that's okay. We could do that. Her resilience and her belief in I'll figure it out has been the motivator for me. And to some degree, maybe that's been to a fault of me going like, well, I can fail and know that she'll know I'll figure it out. And so I have figured it out, or I keep trying to figure it out. I'm still figuring it out. We got a whole new venture we're about to start that I'm so excited for, because for the first time, both of us will be doing it together almost fully. And I just like, oh, this is going to be fun just to figure out if we could do it. I don't know. Might not work. I'm that guy who I don't mind having 1,000 things on my resume because, as we talked about before, there's a lot of stuff I've done. Like, yeah, I mean, heard probably a tenth of what I've this career wise, but it's been fun. And I have all this. There's a great book called Be So Good They Can't Ignore You. And in that book, he talks about what people don't realize is the things you pick up out of all your multiple jobs or things you do, you never know how that will come into place 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road. And I am a total walking testament of that. There are things that I learned when I was 24 years old working as a DJ and emceeing weddings that I absolutely use to this day on stage, 100%. And that's what's great about it. Experience.
Did you ever read Range?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Range?
Yeah, I haven't read it either, but I have it. And the premise of the
book...
Have you
read Range? Yes. Oh, I haven't.
The premise is something to the effect of it's those that actually have this range that, like, it's a good thing, is validating those that have a breadth of experience instead of simply mastery. As we were just talking about earlier with the Olympics.
Yeah.
That's the pinnacle of I stayed in a lane. I stayed in one vertical. I went so deep that I became like the best in the world.
Yeah, and that's amazing. I look at the people like, wow, how'd you do that?
And oftentimes it's at the expense of maybe balance. And that's where earlier you said after, maybe the 2008 where you're like, yeah, I was scared because I didn't have the skills.
I didn't. Yeah.
But what's interesting about that is that, like, I think a lot of people's skills aren't labeled or aren't recognized as valuable. Like until Seth Godin told me, not me personally, I was reading this book, that your good taste is actually a skill. So for example, your wife had amazing taste before she could actually do something with it. And if you don't understand this, not you personally, but a person that has good taste, they're often haunted by the fact that they know this is what excellence looks like, but they know at this point they're only here. And this gap haunts them because they can't actually meet what they know quality is. But some people are like, oh, this is quality. I'm already here. And they're like in their own world thinking, I'm crushing it. And this person's like, you're not crushing it. Like that's almost embarrassing that you have such confidence in that. It's not that amazing, but that's a skill. And yet for you to have, counsel, sure, I guess like there's the role of the counselor. But for you to have all these seemingly maybe disparate skills, and yet it's like, I'm always wondering how people can find confluence amidst the different things. And that's why it's like my whole idea behind Authentic Brilliance is like, if you could play the game that only you can win, it's at the center of like your personality and your mission and your cognitive wiring and almost like the call that you feel like it's on your life. And again, your personality and your skill sets, all that coming together to be like, what feels like play? Where do you get lost? And again, we were both just getting lost for 2 hours, not trying to do a 2-hour prep. It wasn't prep. It was just connecting, being curious, inquiring. I can get so worn out at a trade show when people are talking to me all day long about something that I don't really care about. It's superficial.
So true.
Maybe at a work dinner where you're all at a trade show and like 12 of you guys go to a place and nothing's deep. And I'm just wanting to go somewhere that's real. Tell me to have someone tell me about something that's actually pain,
Yep.
real. I don't know, where we get quiet, we lean in. I am on that extrovert introvert balance where I can be or inspired all day long as long as there's substance there.
100%.
But
Agreed.
who came along and said, "Oh, by the way, that's a skill."
Right.
And if you follow that, because at the end of the day, how do you monetize something?
Which is the problem.
But nowadays, it's not just you're an engineer, you're
Right.
a doctor, you're a lawyer.
Right.
People don't just stay in something and stay for 30 or 40 years in a career and feel trapped by that. I think we actually have the ability to say, well, can I more align what is fulfilling to me and what could make money?
Yeah.
And you've had this really colorful experience of doing quite a bit of things, including being a CSP, which is
Yes.
no small thing.
Well, and I used to be really, I don't know if I'd be embarrassed by it, but be like, that meant that, again, going back to the jack of all trades, master of none thing. And it was almost like a thing to not brag about. I've gotten to the place where I want to be able to say I've done certain things. So when I wrote my first book, I was like, I'm gonna write a book not because I'm gonna make $1 million off my book, but because I have something to say, and I want people to know I had something to say. I want my great grandkids to know, hey, this is how great grandpa felt about this thing. And I am now in a place in my life. It's funny because I don't totally understand the word retirement. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Which my wife is like, no, we need money for retirement. What's that? What is retirement? I mean, where I can have financial freedom to go and do what I want, when I want, where I want. Okay. But I don't retire. I got stuff to do. This life is not long enough for all the stuff I have planned to do. And I paused a lot of it because of my kids, because I wanted to be a good father, because I wanted to be home and attentive. And now I'm looking at the back half of my life, I'm 53, to go, cool, what else can I fit in?
Okay, have you read Halftime?
No, but I've heard of it.
Bob
I know somebody's
Buford?
mentioned it. No.
Unbelievable.
Okay, that's cool.
And I feel like it's a timing for where you're at right now, where it's kind of like how much impact, not in some like someone else's rubric. Who gives a
no, me.
Just you.
Yes.
Impact fulfillment for you.
Actually, no. I know there's a part of me, and this sounds so freaking cheesy. I don't want to do it just for me. I want to do it so that somebody else like me sees me and goes, oh, cool. That's permission to do that.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. I have a TV show that I am going to write. But before I write that, I have a Broadway musical that I will be writing within the next 2 years. I've been writing it now for about 15 years. It's in my head. I've got certain things, not just in my head. I have things written down. I have it all mapped out. I have music. I have one song already written, all this stuff. I am not a musician. I don't read music, but I love the idea of this thing. And so I'll be doing that.
Are you going to star in it?
No, I actually thought about it the other day because I went and saw a friend of mine who just produced a musical. And I was like, oh, I could play one character in it. But then again, I'm like, huh, do I? I'd be okay with just I'd be writing it and putting it out there.
Do you know Bo Eason?
Oh, yeah, I know Bo Eason, yeah.
Okay, because didn't he star and write his own Run of the Litter?
Yeah, so that's his story, right?
Yeah,
so this is an actual story of someone else.
Okay.
That is based upon a book that I'm like, I'm writing that story. And I'm going to do it. And I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but I'll at least write it, right? So that's my point, is that there's things like that. There's all these little things that I'm going, I want to add more to the resume so that when I die and people are at my celebration, I want people to be like, check this stuff out that he did. He did a podcast. He was up on stages. He did, like, I don't have to be the master of the one thing. I want to be the person that goes, oh, yeah, I could do that too. Yeah, I did that too. Like when we were talking earlier, and I was a makeup artist in Hollywood. Well, there's a reason why I was a makeup artist, not because I want to be a makeup artist, but it's like there's the stories behind it that make people go like, what? And that's my favorite thing to be like. And I used to think, and I probably am getting better at it now. I won't say I'm completely done with it. When people would give me that look of like, you were a limo driver? Like, for a couple of years in Hollywood. I did tours to the stars right now. Huh? It would almost be like you didn't go to college type thing, right? Now I'm like, I'm sorry, you were, and no offense to anybody out there that does this, but you were a dentist your whole life?
Oh, you had to go to dentist.
Like you went to dental school and like you chose something at 22 or 21 and now that's all you've done for 40 years? Oh, I'm sorry.
But in some ways, that's why I don't have a tattoo.
Because you can't commit.
No, because it's like,
I was going to say, that's me.
To honor the fact that like my styles,
Yes. Yes.
I have zero confidence that what I thought was cool as a 22-year-old. And I'm right. As a 40-year-old, I would. Now, there's nothing wrong with being like, hey, this is just my story. This is me. Sure.
But it baffles me, dude. Seriously, my son has multiple tattoos. And I'm like, how do you commit to that? because my son has a tattoo, and this is a good point to your story, or a good story to your point, is my son has a tattoo on his back. There was a show on Netflix called Banderdash or Boulder Dash, something like that. It's basically a choose your own adventure show that came out probably about 5 years ago. And there's a symbol on it that means Boulder Dash or whatever it is. He got it tattooed on his back. And when he did, I was like, dude, you're going to regret this. This is a today thing. Like, you're making a permanent decision for a temporary problem, right? That's not okay. Well, of course, now it looks stupid. It's weird. It's warped. Nobody knows what it is, except for maybe a few. That's what he tells me. A few people do. Yeah, barely ever. So in order to be the great dad that I am, on Netflix, so you have shared accounts and everybody has different profiles, and you can put a picture on their profile.
Stop.
One of them is the banner. So every time he has to log in, he has to see that, because I control the account still. So every time he sees it, he has to see that on there and be like, because he admits it's a stupid tattoo. So that's why I can't get tattoos either, because I'm non-committal that way.
But that's also why I love tattoos on other people, because I love what it
I want to know the
reveals
story.
about their story. Like, my cousin has Elmo because during the Tickle Me Elmo craze, right?
Wow.
It was such a big deal that she decided to get a tattoo of Elmo. And it's like, that was here and gone.
Wow.
Like that.
But you're living with Elmo the rest of your life. Right. Or Tweety Bird or whatever it is that you care about. Like, that's the thing. I know. That's why I look at, and some of them, like, those are fascinating. You must really care about that thing. And I almost got a tattoo about a year ago. In the dental space, there's a guy named Morris Mungo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The Africa.
Yeah. He does dental smiles for Africa or something like that. We were in Key West together at a dental festival. I think it was my last one I went to. And we were going out to bar. I don't know Morris all that much. And we've seen each other a few times. And we all were going to do a bar hop thing. And we get in the bar, the first bar, and I walk over to something, and Morris is there, and he's with someone else. And he goes, Dino. It's like, he goes, you walk different. And I went, okay. And the girl next to me, she goes, that's a compliment. And he goes, you walk different than everybody else here. And it hit me in such a way, even now it gets me a little emotional, of like, it was like, oh, you just explained how I feel about my life. And I'm okay with that. I walk different and I'm okay. So it's been kind of like my little mantra to remind me when I'm down or when I'm not feeling, like, no, I walk different. It's okay. And so I almost got it tattooed on my wrist about 2 years ago. But I told my wife, I'm like, you got to figure out something to tattoo, because I'm not going to be the only one doing this tattoo thing. And we still haven't done it. But
so the power regarding that, though, is you owning you. I feel like there is an energy to it where it actually gives other people permission to own themselves.
Yeah.
And to leave the whole, I ought to, I should. And whether that's traditions, and I'm not like poo-pooing on traditions, or whether it's just the trends of, well, everyone's doing this, so I've got to be good at this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the one area early on that I knew that I didn't want to have to be on the performance Ferris wheel or whatever you want to call it, was like with like love. I was like, man, if I show up and I try to be slick and I try to be like what everyone wants, and someone falls in love with that, I'm scred, because I'm going to have to perform every day of my life.
Yeah.
But if I can just show up like really as I am, like I tried not to look good. My hair was even crazier than this, if you can imagine. I'd ripped jeans, not because they were cool, but because I fell off a mountainside and it ripped my jeans. I had shoes from Costco, like Court Classics.
Hey. My whole wardrobe is Kirtland. Don't get on Costco.
Well, I'm just saying, in college, this wasn't a cool thing.
College. Yeah, you're right.
And it was one of those things where I'm like, if someone can fall in love with my heart and see me for who I am, then I'll always be secure knowing that, like, they didn't love me for how good I was or what I did for them or how I'm like. And so I understood it there, but in business, it was difficult for me to not play a role.
Yeah, I'm still there. I'm still not there with business. I think there's this feeling of like, I'm pretty much an open book, but I definitely still feel like there's this, you jockeying for like, who's successful, what are you doing, what are you up to, how many clients do you have, all that stuff. I'm not totally there. I still have body image issues, stuff of like, okay, how am I feeling and looking? I did my hair right last year, because I was like, I don't care, I'm gonna tell everybody I got my hair transplant, I don't give a crap, because that's part of me stepping more into that, and I want to be more in that. I can do that with my body, I can do that with my then I should be able to do it with my business, because business, who cares? Like, who cares?
Maybe that's your podcast, Walk Differently.
I walk different.
I walk different. Yeah. Because if part of your message is, this is one of those things when I talk about branding with people, it's like, branding isn't some mysterious thing. At least this is the ideal. It's not, I'm in this industry, I'm in this market. How do I try to find some story that makes it look like I belong here or fit, so I can try to kind of make them align? It's like, wait a second, you were the person that had the Asian parent where you had to practice for 4 hours a day on piano, and you ended up being valedictorian, and now someone else is struggling because of something similar, you have the antidote
Right.
because that's your story. Like you
Right.
walk through that. I don't.
Right.
That's not me.
Yeah.
And most of the time, the antidotes that we have come from the seasons where everything got burned up in flames.
Yeah.
And we thought we had nothing. And what we found was that gold, or what we found was that diamond
Sure.
because of the coal and the pressure that emerged. And that's our gift to the world.
Mhm.
But it's inextricably linked to our story. It's inextricably linked to something that we actually walk through, not something we're trying to pretend to be. And you owning that and being like, look, like this is me, it gives permission and emboldens those. I remember I was on a hike with my dad on Superstition Mountains. It's a beautiful hike, Siphon Draw. It's the hardest hike in the East Valley.
I will never go on it. So good. I'm glad you explained it to me because I will never go on it.
It's beautiful though. And there was this, I was already married at the time. Maybe I already had a few kids. And there was this 25, 26-year-old guy that was hiking. And he ended up kind of just hiking
With you.
next to us
Yeah,
and
sure.
then decided to stay with us. And my dad is just fatherly. So he's just, kind of giving him some advice. And you don't necessarily know what comes out of you. I feel like when you are trying to love someone or just like naturally in that place, something can come out of you that you didn't even know was necessarily in you. And sometimes I wish like I could just record certain conversations. I'm like, man, I didn't even know that advice was in me.
Sure.
But one of the things that
Uh-huh.
emerged in that conversation, because he was like at this decision point with this girl that he really liked, and she just kind of moved away, and he wasn't sure if he should follow. And it was just like, what do I do? And he's asking us for advice. And it was like the clearest day for me. I was just like, you know what? Write your story in a way that you're proud to tell your grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, like, if you're proud to be like, yeah, she went away and I was fine just not pursuing her. Okay, cool, then do that. But I wouldn't be proud of that story.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be proud of I loved her and I loved her so much that I don't care where she went. I was going to go after her with everything in me to see if this was right. And that's your grandma,
Yeah.
like write your story in a way that you're proud to tell your grandkids.
Yeah.
And even now with this whole halftime, you got 40 years left.
Mm-hmm.
What's the story? Because like, I don't want to give advice to my grandkids or even my kids. And they're like, well, yeah, but dad, you kind of pussed out. You didn't do it.
Right. Totally. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not consistent.
Yeah.
Well, dad, how did you do that?
I want my kids, my grandkids to do better than me. I think that's one of the greatest things about fatherhood is like, I just said this to my son the other day. I'm like, there's only one person on this planet that will ever live who will want you to be better than him. And that's me. I want you to be better than me. I want you to have more success, more happiness, more love, all that stuff. And I want them to see that, and I want them to see that through, oh, grandpa did this, dad did this. Okay, well, we can do that too. We can accomplish that. And I want them to see the hard times. I want them to see the crap that we went through. It's funny because my wife and I have not the same feeling around vulnerability and public vulnerability. I don't care. I say that. There are certain things I care about. But for the most part, I'm like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. If you're going to not want to listen to me because I didn't graduate from college, if I didn't go to college, if you're not going to want to listen to me because I had a failed business or whatever, I don't have the coolest car, I don't understand the sports team you're talking about, then okay, like that's not my problem. I learned years ago about the idea of meaning and how we put so much we are meaning making machines, right? Human beings. And so we put this idea of there has to be a meaning around something or it's not worthy of our time or our focus. And so therefore, we have to create meaning, negative, positive meaning around something as opposed to just letting it be. You know what? My parents' marriage didn't work out. Why did I have to make that meaning around me? I'm rejected, I'm whatever. And I have, it's funny, I just saw somebody recently on, where was it? A girl was talking about being adopted. She was Chinese and she was adopted by an American white family. And she now, as an adult, has all these problems and challenges with it. And I honestly had a reaction to it. I wasn't adopted. I have 2 adopted brothers. I understand there's a lot of those feelings going on, and which I will never know because I wasn't. But I also look at it going like, and that's not who you are. I'm not Dino, the kid whose parents divorced at 8 years old. How many kids are like that though, right? Get stuck in that. And that's a problem that I have when it comes to all the areas of emotional intelligence that I really feel like I do have, there are certain areas that I'm still trying to figure out and learn that I don't get. So I'll give an example. My son has 2 parents who love each other, who love him, who loved his sisters. He grew up in a pretty decent household. There was never any abuse happening. There was never any craziness going on. And he got to a part in his life where he was suicidal. very much so, to where he was like, what's the point of life? And, it's all worth that. And the only reason I'm alive is because I don't want to be upset at you and mom. And that's it, really stuff. And I struggle with that a lot because I was going, where's the moment?
Mm.
Like, I could understand. Like, I didn't have a dad. Hello, like type thing. When he complained about certain things. And there was even a group therapy thing he was in as a teenager. That I remember him coming home and they all sat around in a circle and he was saying how everybody's talking about, oh, my dad comes home. He's a long haul driver and I hate it when he's gone. But then when he comes home, he hits me and I hate that. And my mom and dad hate each other. My mom's a drug addict and all this stuff going around and gets to him. And he's like, my mom and dad love each other. And you don't understand the pressure that puts on me to have to find someone that I love too, and to have a good marriage and to be a good kid. That's a lot of pressure. And he said, all of them were looking like, you crazy. Like, what are you talking about? And that's what I would look at him like too. But what I'm learning now is I don't understand that. And that's okay. I don't have to have meaning around that. He can have those feelings and I can be, all right, I'm not in charge of your feelings. I don't have to have meaning. It doesn't make me a bad dad. Doesn't make me a failure as a father. And I got to the place, I had to get to the place where and my wife and I had these conversations. He might kill himself. I have to be okay with that. As okay as I possibly can without going through that. My brother committed suicide, so I know what that's like as watching a parent go through that. But I have to be in this place of going, I can't control that. If he wants to do it, he's going to do it. I can't make that have meaning on me. I've seen what that does. My mom has a lot of meaning around what her son, how it is her as a parent because her son killed himself, what it is as a parent because she divorced. There's a lot of meaning around that I don't want in my life. So it's a hard thing to do, and I'm trying to do it more and more. But as we look at our kids and as we look at everything going on in life, I see this with my clients all the time, doctors, and I'm like, why are you putting so much meaning on that? Why do you make that a thing about yourself? Why are you talking about yourself in that way? I have this thing that I do with clients where I'll tell them about this, that I believe we're all playing character in life. And we get to choose which character we're playing. Like we look at just take a character in movies or whatever. But I will often sit back, especially with couples, when I'm working with couples, and I'll go, I don't believe you. You're a bad actor. You're putting on this persona that you're, not caring and listening, and you're not wanting to have romance and all stuff. I don't believe that character. Why don't you do the true character of who you are? I believe that oftentimes we are taught or we decide to learn the part we're going to play, and it's not who our authentic self is. And our authentic self would never talk to a woman like that. Our authentic self would never treat money that way. But we're taught that. We put the meaning on us about that. And so we play that character. And it's a lot of times a losing character. So I've just kind of gotten to the place where I don't want to play a character anymore. I am who I am. Yep. Got a hair transplant. Yep. This happened in my life. I did this, did that, whatever. Okay.
So it's interesting that you say this because so I have a methodology around what I call authentic influence. And what it basically is like the pathway is you start by getting whole. So you like try to some measure of wholeheartedness so that you can then own your authentic brilliance so that you can create remarkable. Mm-hmm. And the idea there is like if you try to own your authentic brilliance without getting to some measure of wholeness, you come to the wrong conclusions about who you are. Sure. Because maybe you weren't allowed to dream. Maybe you weren't allowed to own the fact that you were an entertainer because you got made fun of, because people felt threatened. Yep. That one bully was like, oh my gosh, I don't like that. Yep. He's freer being himself than I am. I'm going to hurt him because of that. Yep. And now all of a sudden you're like, wow, every time I shine, I get made fun of. I should stop shining. Yep. So traumas, scars, we reinterpret and come to often the wrong conclusion about what those things meant.
Right.
I love what you're saying about meaning, but I feel like it's still on the person to decide how they want to actually receive the meaning.
Sure.
It's like Tom Brady. He was pick 199.
Yeah.
He didn't use that so I'm never going to be something.
That's
Instead,
right.
he used it like, they don't know what they missed out on, and I'm going to show them what they missed.
And that's what I mean of the meaning, right? He took that meaning and went, well, I'm not going to let their meaning be what I see in myself. I'm going to choose something different. And that takes incredible strength. I mean, I think the majority of the world, that's why he's the GOAT, right? I don't even care about sports. And I know Tom Brady is the GOAT because he looked at something and said what everybody else would say. And 99.999% of people would go, well, that's what it means about me. Okay, I'm not going to be the greatest. I'm pick whatever, 169th or whatever. He went, what if I didn't let that be my meaning? What if I did something else? And those people are amazing to me. And I think the goal is to decide at what point are you going to not give a flip what other people are thinking about you, what meaning they put on it. Is while you're saying that, about even with me at childhood and being bullied and stuff like that. I actually had this flash in my head of my parents though. Like I had this thing growing up and throughout my life, it's been a theme that I've been working on is I've been the best at what I do in a pool of people who aren't good at what they're doing. So when I grew up, I was the only dancer in a 3-city area. Of course I was the best. I didn't have competition. Even in my work now in orthodontics, when I got into the orthodontic space as a coach or a consultant, I didn't go in and say, hey, who's the best, in oral healthcare? I'm going to beat them. No, I was like, I'm going to make my own lane. I'm going to be the best in that lane. And there are times where I've gotten down on myself about that or other places where I'm like, well, but I had no competition. So how do I know if I'm any good? And that's true. I think there's a piece to that where you have to be able to compete in order to know how you can get better. But there's also a part of it going like, well, isn't that just smart? Like everybody else is going this way. Why don't I go this way? The blue ocean theory, right? I'm going to go over here. Why not do that? And now I can look at that and go, yeah, well, I mastered that thing. Why does that have to have meaning that it wasn't worthwhile? Because I didn't have competitors against me. Now there's competitors. So great. Bring on the competitors. But, yeah, I just think that it depends on how you take the meaning. Are you going to listen to their meaning, which means nothing? I love the Gary Vee thing of like, no one's thinking about you. Like no one's going to bed at night going, when Sean did that thing, he's really a jerk about that thing. Nobody's doing that. You're just going to bed. But we think they're all going to bed thinking about who I am, what I've said. I'm going to go and think, what are people going to think about this podcast? Like, they'll think about what they think. It doesn't pay my rent. It doesn't make my relationship any better with my wife. It doesn't connect me with my kids anymore. I'm the only one in charge of that. So whatever decision I make and whatever meaning I put on that's what I'm going to do. I often say, we often write stories in our head, right, about things. Why are we always choosing the worst story, the most dramatic story?
Well, because I was going to say, even what you said, why do you diminish your success by qualifying it?
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
In 6th grade, I won state champ in wrestling.
Yeah.
But then I had all the qualifiers. But it was in New Hampshire.
No
it's
one
one of
else
the smallest states.
Yep.
The kid that kind of, the round before when I was, right before the semifinal round, I don't know. I kind of just stalled on the bottom.
Right.
So I kind of got lucky. And then the kid I faced in the finals, he just wasn't that good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I won state champ and I was just like, I'm not that good of a wrestler.
Yep. Why do we do that? Why do we diminish the success of the thing?
Well, part of I think why I do it and have done it is because it's that Miriam Williamson quote.
Mm-hmm. Who are you not to be?
I'm terrified that if I actually own my strength and get any sort of recognition from that, what if I also let someone down because I can't keep it up?
Yeah.
Like I'd rather not have the spotlight because I don't want to let people down.
Yep. Totally.
I was a little bit of the entertainer where I would crack up my family and I'd say something that'd be funny and then they'd be like, do it again. And I'd be like, what if it's not as funny the next? I don't know. I didn't want to disappoint.
Sure. If I did it right the first time, then don't do it again because that would be a let down. And I've had that. I've definitely had that in my life where I had this excess of something and then tried it again. It wasn't as good. I actually did stand-up comedy for a while. And there you go.
Not shocked.
Another one. And in that space, the first time I got up on stage, my set, yes, it was in friends and family. Yes, it was, with my classmates and all that stuff in this class I was taking in Los Angeles, but I killed it. Great. Second set, I got up, did pretty good too. Third set, I got able to do, for those that know how important this is, I was in the belly room at the Comedy Store in Los Angeles, which is, Comedy Store is big stage, never going to get there. Belly room is upstairs. Now it's more famous. Then it was more infamous than anything. Like went on at like 12 at night or something like that. My dad, my aunt, my 2 aunts, and somebody else was there. There was hardly anybody in the room. I felt bombed miserably. Never went back to stand up. I mean, I was successful and then I let it go. And so that thing in my head, I'm going back to stand up this year though, by the way, that's one of my goals this year, is that there's this, if I did it right the first time, don't do it again because you might screw it up. And I know that's a part of my growing up. My mom was definitely the perfectionist. My mom definitely wanted it done, right. We had very, very clean house all the time type thing. And so that's a part of that training that's still there. But yeah, it's the, what if I mess it up? It has to be done right the first time. That's why it's really hard for me to write. Because when I write, I don't write and then go back and edit. I write and edit while I'm writing. So I'll write something, I'll go back and edit it, write it something. It takes me forever to do it. Now with chat, it's way better because it can criticize me and tell me what I need to do. But yeah, that's why my musical has taken 12 years too, or 15 years, is because I'm rewriting the first scene over and over again, and I'm writing the third scene and the 12th scene. I'm going back and so I'm terrible that way.
So one of the interesting paradoxes about giftings is that in your own expression of it as a child, it's typically what you get in trouble for because you have a gift, but you have zero maturity.
Yeah.
So if it's talking, it's like, hey, he doesn't know how to shut up. Like he needs to just be quiet.
Yeah.
So typically, especially in a school where everything's about stay in line, conformity, don't rock the boat, not you, but people typically got in trouble.
Oh, I did. Yeah.
For their gift.
Yeah. I got in trouble for interjecting opinions into adult conversations a lot. And I still have memories. And I remember doing this to my daughter too. My middle daughter is very much me. She hates hearing that, but it's true. I remember standing there and seeing, I was always super short and just seeing these people talking. And I would say, what about this? What about that? And they, Dino, go play with the kids. Right. And just dismiss me. And I would get in trouble or I'd be dismissed. And so it's like, oh, my opinion doesn't really matter. It's interesting. Yeah. Don't tell me, don't interject. And I had that in this space too. And I probably still do in a little bit. There is a class system of, I didn't go to college. I'm talking to doctors. It was probably about 2-3 years into working in the dental and ortho space. I was invited to speak at Dental Town. And it was just an 8-minute like TED Talk type thing. And Howard had interviewed me on his podcast before. He invited me to come and do the 8-minute thing, and then was interviewing me on the podcast that day afterwards too. And I had 8 minutes, so I wanted to get across my point about suicide and how this is ridiculous. That this is a group of educated people, and we have the highest suicide rate in the industry or in the country. This is insane. So it was kind of a rebuke talk. And at the end, it wasn't planned, but for some reason, and my wife was there too watching, for some reason, I said at the end, I said something around the idea of like, now I know, listen, why should you even talk to or listen to me? I didn't even go to college and you're all doctors. I get it, but here's why. I get off stage, I go in the back, people say nice things to me and they all walk out and Shannon's waiting for me. And you know when you can tell that your wife is annoyed or not happy about something?
Yeah.
And you don't know why. I'm like, what? I just did a speech. What's the problem? And everybody leaves and she turns to me and she goes, don't you ever do that again. And I went, what? And she goes, how dare you diminish the message you gave by telling people you didn't go to college as if that had anything to do with anything. You just took away all your credibility by letting people know that you didn't feel good enough to tell them this message, which is that important. And I've never said anything about it again. I mean, I say it here in the sense of it has no power over me anymore. It had power over me then because I felt like I needed to earn what I was saying to them. Right. And that I wasn't good enough to say, I wasn't smart enough. But that idea of making sure that I'm good enough has been a theme throughout my life of like, how can I make sure I'm good enough? I'm going to be the funniest. I'm going to be the silliest. I'm going to be the most outlandish. I'm going to dance on stage. I'm going to be a cheerleader, whatever, just to get people's attention to say, hey, I'm good enough. And that comes from that meaning part too.
So have you ever struggled with owning your gifting in a way where, I don't know if I got confused with like humility early on where it's like, oh, if you really want to be humble, God resists the proud, then you can't almost like own your greatness.
Sure.
Because people get threatened. And socially, I don't want to like put a wedge between me and someone else and make them feel bad simply because I'm trying to shine.
Right.
But yet the world doesn't win if everyone hides their light.
Sure.
So that was a very difficult dilemma for me to be like, I like peace with people and I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. But like, did you ever struggle owning like the actual greatness that you were given?
Oh, sure. I think I still do. I think there's definitely things that I still live in the space of, I only want to do the thing that I know I'm going to be good at. I had a mentor once years ago, and I still use this quote all the time, which he said, humility is misunderstood. True humility is knowing that every single person that you stand in front of, you are a genius at something they are not, and that they are a genius at something you are not. And I try to remember that a lot because everyone knows something that I don't know. Everyone is smarter at something than I am. And so I've tried to be I do believe in the idea of not fake it till you make it, but just act as if act as if I'm the thing. So when I'm feeling not brave, when I'm feeling like, I want to hide that light, like, no, you know what, why not? I've done it enough most recently in like the last, say, 10, 15 years that I'm not worried about it because it's no matter what, even if it doesn't turn out the way that I want it to, even if it's not as successful, I've really come to learn that the success is in the just doing it and seeing if it works or not. I had a speech that I created years ago, which was completely comprised of sitcom theme songs, the lyrics of a sitcom theme song. And I wanted to give that speech so badly. And I didn't at this one event. And then I ended up giving it at a private event. And it was fun and cute or whatever, but it didn't work. But the success is in, and I'm so proud of that speech because I'm like, at least I did it. At least I did it. So I'm trying to live more in the life of at least I did it and tried it, not worrying about if it's going to fail or not. And I say that with the full understanding of I still have like, do I want to fail at that thing or not? Or like, am I okay? Who's the audience, right? If it's in front of Shannon and the kids, oh well. If it's in front of the close friends, I don't care. But new audience, I'm not sure. So I still do struggle a little bit with that.
Okay, this one's going to be fun.
Okay.
Let's see if I can
Uh-oh.
put to words what I'm seeing. So I've recognized for quite a while now that there's this problem with freedom. And I don't mean freedom on like a institutional level or governmental level with countries and people's dignity. I mean freedom with the fact that there's 360 degrees of possibility that really you can go and do and be almost what you want. But most people never have to grapple with it because they like make the cage that allows them to feel safe and secure in that cage.
Sure.
And then sometimes they even complain about the fact that someone else put them in the cage.
Sure, of course.
But you're an individual that knows you have to grapple with freedom because you are out of the box already. You've already been out of the cage. You have these giftings. You have this brilliance. You know there's not limits and walls aside from again the music, like meaning if the music in your head isn't playing a certain tune, you're not going to try to fake it. Like so authenticity as your guide. What is the gift that Dino Watt is made to give to the world? You know, with like the last 30, 40 years, childhood, scars, traumas, triumphs. And here you are. And you said you're turning a page possibly with you and Shannon doing something. Again, I'm not trying to get you to take all the different possibilities and put it into one thing. Yeah. But if you had to.
Well, I've really come into this a lot, probably in the last 5-6 years. I think my greatest gift is I can always see the positive in something. I'm a very positive person. I used to think that was like something I would kind of shy away from or was a weakness. I'm okay being completely positive. I never really, I used to say Pollyanna. Most people wouldn't know what that is. Do you know what Pollyanna is?
Oh, it's such a sad story.
Okay.
Did she fall out of the window or the tree or something?
Well, I think at the end she ends up dying somehow, right? But she's super positive. I found out the new reference that I need to say is SpongeBob. I've never watched SpongeBob. Never watched SpongeBob, but I was trying to explain who Pollyanna is to all these people, these younger kids, and I get kids, they're like, 30s and 20s. And they're like, oh, you're SpongeBob. I'm like, okay, I guess. My greatest gift is that I'm always going to look at something and go like, huh, always. I'm not going to say always. I try to as much as I can look at something and go, okay, but what's the positive out of that? How can I make this a positive thing? How can I limit the suffering in myself and then the other people around me? I've learned very much that I can't necessarily limit the suffering of other people because I have to make that choice not to suffer, but I can definitely do it for myself. And it's funny because Tony Robbins was talking about this recently about not wanting to see suffering in the world. I just can see things positively. So not needing to get into it, but when I had a business adventure recently that went bad, immediately I was like, oh, this would be a great story from the stage. To which my wife was like, no, we're not talking about this. And I'm like, no, it's a good story from the stage. Right, exactly. Like, it's a good story. I used to shy away from it as if it was a weakness, but I can see positivity in people. I can see positivity in almost anything. Even people I vehemently disagree with, I will go like, oh, but I can see there's something there. There's still a positive, which is actually really hard for me right now in the world that we are today because I feel like so many people are not willing to see that. I don't understand that. And I understand it, but I hate it. I hate the fact that we live in a world where we can't just see complete differences in one another and go like, okay, but that aside, they're breathing. They're humans. They're trying their hardest. They're wanting significance. They're wanting to know that they're important. book called The Emotional Intelligence by Woody Woodward. And in there, he talks about how everybody in the world just wants to feel important. Like one of our main drivers is to feel important. Everybody. So if everybody wants to feel important, they're doing the thing they're doing because they think it makes them feel important, or it does make them feel important in that moment. So I got to at least know that even though we disagree, I know you want to feel important, and I do too. So we're similar.
Okay, so let's dance with this a little bit more. So I didn't necessarily mean though, like a singular greatest gift of yours. I meant Dino is a gift, and
to others.
Yeah. So if there's a person suffering, everyone is suffering in some ways, but like Dino is the antidote to what or to who?
Not being seen. 100%.
Okay, so one of the gifts that Dino is to the world is you will help see the people that are unseen.
Yeah, I help you see that you are seen. And it sounds, I know it can kind of sound kind of cliche, but I truly see people. Like I will see people in the grocery store that look like they are homeless or haven't showered in days and just be like, huh. And if I'm not saying I would go up to them and like, hey, let me show you, I can see you, right? But if they needed something, I'd be like, okay, how can I? Even people have done me wrong, even people who have stolen from me, I want them to know I still see them. Like I still see them. And what that means to me is that I care. I want them to know that they are cared for. I don't have all the answers for them, but if there's a moment that I did this speech a few years ago, that the end of the speech was me sitting on a stool, and there's a song that I played, and the played was You Matter to Me by, it's in a play called Waitress. And I played the song, and I literally looked in the eyes of every single person in the audience. I just went around and just took a second to look at every single person. And I do that because there's something in me that really desires. It's because when I was a kid, I felt alone. I didn't feel seen. So I want people to know I see you, and I don't understand you. I don't get you. I don't agree with you. All those things might be true as well. But at the very end of the day, I see you and you are seen. And so I think that's the thing the gift. And that's probably the frustration too, because when people don't accept it, when my kids don't accept it, when clients don't accept it, when team members don't accept it, it's hard. I don't totally believe in this stuff, but I have a trait. I'm a Scorpio. And one of the traits of a Scorpio that I totally am is if you burn me, we're done. And unfortunately, sometimes that burning is not accepting my presence. It's like, if you're not going to, well, fine. And it's that little kid in me that's like, fine, and I don't want to be your friend anyway, right? But no, I think in the end, everything, I just want people to really know that if they're with me and we're having a conversation, we're present and I see you. And I want you to be happy.
In the whole people talking about an abundance mindset, right? The way I've seen it has to do with light, where I truly believe everyone has a certain spectrum of light that they can uniquely shine. Now, I don't believe everybody is shining it, because again, of fear, insecurity, or the shoulds. But in that sense, I think there is complete abundance for everyone to shine the light that only they can shine.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like in that shining, again, back to my belief, that's revealing an aspect of the divine that only they can reveal in that way. And it's like, here you are talking about this light that you get to shine, which is really almost breaking off, I don't know, rejection or this sense of like, I don't know, is there anything about me that's special or worthy, or does anybody care? Does anyone even, I know my mom, she would like never swear, but the only time she ever would is when she'd be like, I want someone to know that I give a damn.
Yeah.
I give a damn about them.
Yep.
And the extent that she would go to risk being misunderstood because she gave a damn. It was like, I don't know, it was provocative, and it was difficult to deal with sometimes because sometimes it was messy.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was out of the lines and it gets people a little, but that's the conviction she had and the extent that she was, willing to pursue that. I'm curious, like, how have you aligned the next 5 or 10 years of your life so that you can give that gift?
Oh, I don't know. I wish there was a physical way that I could do that. Like there's a outward expression that I can do. There's a Instagram account that I follow called Crew Cuts, and it's a man who does transformations on people. He does hair and makeup. And what the whole thing is, you see, usually it's a woman. He's been doing men lately, but usually it's a woman, and they're usually African American. That's his lane. And it shows them with like ratty hair and ashy skin, and then he does his little. He puts the drape on, and as the drape comes down, now it's what he's done to them. It is the purest form of transformation when you talk about the light. You see somebody with a dim light, and suddenly just they see themselves in the mirror. And what he has done is said and physically said, let me show you your presence of what I see you. I wish I could do that. That's an art that I wish I had. So how have I set it up for the next couple of years? I don't know. I think, and this, it's so, in a lot of ways, it stinks or sucks because I wish I would have really heard this when I was 20 or 25. And I know a lot of people say this. And when you have people in their 50s and 60s and 70s, like you have no idea how quickly it goes. It comes to a point in your life where you just don't give a damn about people, about what they think about that, other than in a negative way, right? And I think I'm stepping more and more into that. So for me, the next 4 or 5 years is going to be stepping more into, I don't care how you think I should do this. I'm going to show you what's possible, and I hope you get on board. I hope you see something in yourself that's like, cool, I'm going to do that. If Dino didn't care about that, then, or about their opinion or their judgment or whatever, then great, go for it. It's probably, I feel like I've done that in some ways, like on stage with when I incorporate dance and stuff like that, when I'm dancing the latest TikTok craze or I'm being silly on stage, right? I know that people get that from me. But I really do think, and I'll go back to this, I don't need to promote it or anything, but when I decided to just like put it out there and say I'm getting a hair transplant and didn't care, that was a part of it. Of like, and I can't tell you the instant messages that I got from people. People reached out to me through Facebook, friends from high school that reached out to me because their kids are like 19, 20 years old and balding and like get my opinion, what they think about it. I can't believe that I showed that on all, other many doctors who are like, I can't believe you told people about that. I'm on my third or I'm on my second and I haven't told a soul. I'm like, but everybody knows.
It was extremely vulnerable.
It was crazy that I didn't see it as that though. I was just like, hey, I'm Dino. I don't care. I'll share it. And that really though taught me that I think most people are desperate for more of that. Let's just be real. Let's just be vulnerable. Let's be analog with one another instead of all this digital stuff that's going on. Let's not live in a Facebook world. Let's live in a real world. So I'd like to do more of that, not more hair transplants. But I mean, heck, I might do this. I don't know. I'll talk to people about this little turkey neck thing I got going on here or whatever. Like it is what it is. I want more of that so that if I can do that and people can feel that presence and feel that, hey, if it's okay for Dino to do that, if it's okay and I'm nobody special, but if people see that, right, then it will hopefully help them be more vulnerable to themselves and be more authentic and feel like they can be present with the people they love too. But yeah, I think that's what I hopefully give that they're seeing.
Okay, so like 2-3 minutes ago, you mentioned the dance thing, and right before you said that, this was like the third time in the interview where I had a thought where I was reminded that like my mom told me one time, no one dances as beautiful as you when you're free, Sean.
Uh,
And I was like, oh man, it was something you were saying that reminded me of that. And then all of a sudden you were like, I guess it's probably when I was on stage and I danced, and I was just like, it's just this craziness. And I think there's something about that. Like, I don't dance in public. I won't dance in public. I mean, maybe someday, I don't know.
you
But
should.
it's a crazy thing too, because biblically speaking, you have David, and there's this scene where he danced before the Lord in the congregation of the people. And this is mighty David, the man that's, with all of the mighty men and the king and the conqueror. And there he danced undignified before the Lord. And just to like not care about looking foolish, or are you being judged or doing it right? And I think part of it is that it's the voices that we have inside that can be so harsh because we're harsh on ourselves and we're harsh on others. And we think, well, gosh, like if I'm that much of a critic, then everyone else is going to criticize me. And it's like, what if we just like, and by someone stepping out, it almost, again, in that like realm of energy, it gives permission for other people to not care as well. It frees up other people. It's like, in that sense, you get to be a deliverer of those that have that. Yeah, but I'm always curating. I'm always censoring. I'm always.
Well, it's the reason why I think we like watching like the American Idols or the America's Got Talent stuff, because you're looking at people, you're like, wow, they're willing to do that, or they're that vulnerable, or they put that's like, whoa, that's so impressive. Now there's the talent side of it, but even when people like comedians, I think are so fun, and because they're out there, and you're sitting back going like, I wish I was willing to say that, or I wish I would say it that way too, or I there's for me for dance for me, it really is. I often talk about it being my active meditation. I'm not the world's greatest dancer. I was never the world's greatest. I was lucky enough to dance when I was younger with some, did some backup dancing and on some videos and stuff. But I was never like the so you think you could dance dancers, which serves me well now because I don't have to be that amazing at 53 to look good.
And your
doing it.
knees still work.
Knees still work, and I didn't destroy my body, which is awesome. But when you say that about David, there is something about when I go to dance class. So the class I go to is called Wild, and the whole purpose of it, we start it with meditation, we end it with meditation. And then it's not performative. It's just have fun. Matter of fact, the rules are, no one's watching you. Just do your thing. Right. And there are definitely times where I'm there, and for whatever reason, I think people are watching me. It's that little kid back in the day when I was being judged and I was with dance groups and I had to be perfect and stuff. Whereas the times where I enjoy it the most is when I just don't care. And I'm out there just enjoying every moment. I'm experiencing me and life and the music and the rhythm. And yeah, I get a little, I get a little twinge of like coolness, knowing that there are some ladies in the back going like, wow, he's got some moves. That's cool. Right. I like that. I like the appreciation to feel important and that. But it just thrills me to be able to go and just not have to worry about anything. It's my freedom of life to just go and dance and enjoy it and mess up, and no one's going to kick me out of the group, and it's fun. I guess the thing is that I hope for most people is that they find what that thing is for them. And I feel sad that there are people who don't actually feel that just live their life with work, or they find other people's drama to be their thing. I'm like, no. Like, what's your thing? Is it puzzles? Is it crossword? Is it pottery? Is it painting? About 10 years ago, I picked up the piano. My mom forced me to play piano when I was a kid. I hated it.
They're heavy.
Yeah, picking them up is true. I don't know. I carried around.
Corny dad joke.
Corny dad joke. But I'll tell you, here's how. I wanted to learn so bad that I found a keyboard, little piano thing that I traveled with when I went around the country with, just so I could be.
So you really did carry.
I did carry it.
You picked it up.
My mom made me take it, and I hated it. And when they got divorced, she couldn't afford it, so I was so thrilled, right? But then it was always my regret. Say people have regrets in life. Oh no, I regret not learning how to play the piano because I was so jealous of people that I knew that could just sit down and start playing beautiful music or playing the guitar. So I picked it up. Still I could probably tell where middle C is right now, but I did it for like 3 years. And I feel like I got so creative during that time because I was doing something that I wasn't doing before. My dyslexia is really weird with crossing hands, and mobile stuff. But I want to do more of that, where I'm challenging myself to do certain things. That's why I mentioned I'm going to do stand-up comedy this year. I'm going to do there's other things I have on my vision board for this year that I'm like, I'm going to do that. I think if we all did more things like that and allowed ourselves to fail and not worry about it has to result in a gold medal or money or success, that we just tried it, then you could say you tried it and did it. I think that's a cool thing.
Did you see F1?
Oh, I love F1. I've probably watched it like 5 times.
Okay, I saw it 5 times. I saw it 3 times on a plane, and then I saw it.
I was just watching it the other night because I was bored. I'm like, nothing else on. Maybe I'll turn on F1.
So there's that scene on the balcony.
Yes.
I think they're in Vegas.
Yep, they're in Vegas. Mm-hmm.
And he realized what he really lost. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't the trophies. It wasn't the accolades. It was actually just the love of racing.
Yep.
And that's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like, for people to be so free mm-hmm. that they can pursue the love, the passion, the fire in themselves mm-hmm. without worrying what people are going to think, without worrying how it's going to make them look, without worrying what failure could look like. So what? And in the age of AI, where AI is just perfect, humanity in our error And falling short is actually what's relatable.
Mhm.
Our struggle.
Yeah.
That's what's beautiful. And if all we have are curated social media posts of reaching the mountaintop
Yep.
without having the courage to show the scrapes and falls as we're on the trail, who cares?
I've been researching TikTok Shop lately because social shopping is going to be one of the most massive things in our world in the next couple of years. It's already what they're doing in China right now. There's last year, social shopping from the internet surpassed in gross in China actual shopping, like going out to stores. Okay, that's going to come. China's always ahead of us. That's going to come here. The most successful TikTok Shop people who are doing lives and stuff are not the influencer models, are not the ones who look perfect, are not the ones with like the six-pack abs and the girls with the long extensions. They're not even close. It's the ones who are the most authentic. It's the women who have a couple of pounds on them, the dads who have the dad bods, the people who've been through life. Not millennials, Generation X are the largest purchasers on TikTok right now. Number one, they have more expendable cash, but those are the people who are so. I totally believe in that. I think we got to get back to this place of this curated thing. There's a video going around right now on social media about saying, "Oh, it's going to kill the movie industry because it's this, the Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise fighting one." I don't know if you've seen that one.
Uh-uh.
Oh yeah, Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise fighting on a scene. It looks amazing, and it's all these different angles. And then there's another one where this woman's in an office and things are exploding. It looks amazing. It's AI, and everybody says AI. I was listening to an interview with, I want to say it was Matt Damon. And he was talking about this idea, and he said that there's a scene in the movie, the Smashing Machine with Dwayne the Rock Johnson that just came out.
I saw that clip.
Okay,
We're talking about how
the,
real.
Yes, you can't make that up. So for those who aren't watching that haven't seen that clip, basically there's a scene where he is in so much emotional trauma that he pulls the blanket up over him, and when Matt Damon asked him, where did that come from as an actor? He said he saw his mom do that when his dad was dying or was hurt or something like that. And he was making the point, there's just some things that you can't create in a computer because you'll know it's not authentic. Just like having a conversation like this, you can definitely, you can go to, what's it called? A Notebook LLM, right? And have a podcast made of my book. And it sounds amazing, but it's not two authentic people having random offshoots of conversations. It's not that emotion that's there. So we're going to need more of that. And so the more we can get into that, the better. AI is great. Like I said, perfect, but perfect gets really boring really fast. And that causes way too much stress in everybody. I don't want to be perfect. When I'm dancing, I'm not perfect. When I'm on stage, I'm not perfect. I have a couple friends who are amazing speakers, $50,000, $60,000 speech speakers. And they're amazing. They're great at what they do. And I'm not saying that they're too polished at all. But you can tell the speakers who are awesome at what they do because they're vulnerable and they're real and they're getting paid to be that way, versus the people who think they're amazing speakers and they have everything organized and planned out, every single step, every single sentence, every single thing. And they don't connect with the audience as much.
There's no presence and power.
No. Why would there be? It's not real. One of my favorite, this is so off topic, not off topic, but it's being vulnerable. One of my favorite moments, probably from 2 years ago, I think it was. Yeah, 2 years ago. I was giving a speech at the AAO, and I'm very lucky that I've curated enough goodwill from people that I pack a room. I had about 2,000 people in the room. It was awesome. It was so much fun. I only had 45 minutes. And there's a part of this speech where I show a picture of a baby, an infant baby on the stage, on the screen. And I allude that it's me. And I say, "Aw, look at that baby." And of course, you have a room full of mostly women. And so what do you get? Oh, now I'm not supposed to say this, and I know it's not politically correct when I said it, but it's just the way that I am on stage. And I said, if you ever just want to get get a bunch of women feeling good in a presentation, just throw a picture of a baby up there. And everybody starts laughing. I'm like, look at these women up here, they're lactating right now. Now my wife's in front too, and she immediately looks over at me, and I'm like, oh, my wife's gonna be so mad at me for saying. I say all this out loud. I didn't say it in my head. I said everything out loud, and I said, oh, my wife's gonna be so mad at me for saying that right now. We'll just cut that out. But everybody laughed, and I know I probably made some people upset. I'm sure I wasn't politically correct in that moment, but I know that the majority of the people in that room saw that Dino was having an authentic moment, and just went with it. And it wasn't perfect. It was messy, but that's okay. So I think that's what really connects most of us in our lives, is when we can see the messy and be okay with it.
Okay, so here I am. I'm going to try to wrap this up.
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
This is crazy. We talked about a lot. What were we talking about today? What was the topic? I don't know.
Well, so one of the metaphors that has been kind of, I don't know, it's been fixated in front of me, and I've wrestled with it like my whole life. And that is the metaphor of like a sailboat that never leaves the harbor.
Yeah.
And I walk down the whatever you walk to, I don't know what it is, what it's called,
The sailboat
walkway.
I know the name's on the tip of my tongue.
Like
now.
a dock?
The dock? Okay, yeah, you walk down the dock. Yeah. The slip.
The slip.
The sailboat's in the slip, walking down the dock. There we go.
And it always seems like I'm looking out and it's foggy and it's misty, and I can't tell if I actually get in the sailboat and lift anchor that I'm going to be safe or that it's going to work out. And yet I'm so mad at myself that I don't have the courage to do it and just trust. And I finally realized a few years back that trust allows you to get through the mist to where all of a sudden everything clears up. But it's almost like that fog qualifies those people and wants to see, like, how bad do you want it? Do you want it bad enough that you're willing to actually set sail, lift anchor, even with uncertainty, even without knowing, even when you can't see? Because trust can be your superpower. It can get you to where you need to go in terms of even just owning who you are. And when you were just talking about the messy, it reminds me of the sandbox. And my dream is just for everyone to find their sandbox. It's that moment as a kid when you could play, but you couldn't be told that you're playing wrong. There's no right or wrong in the sandbox. It's losing track of time and just getting to be. And here you are, and you're literally like talking about, we talked about so many aspects where it's about wholeness. It's about reconciling maybe some of the pains of the past, or some of the questions that we don't always have answers to, or why did this happen? Why did I experience this pain? And then you just learning to own the brilliance that's in you so that you can create that remarkable that only you can create, Dino. And I'm so thankful that you didn't give up. I'm so thankful that you've honored the struggle when things got hard. I'm so thankful that you didn't quit when you experienced these moments that were rock bottom, when other people might have just tapped out, or other people might have just played it safer. And yet you didn't give up. And here you are, and you have a message and you have a mission. And I am so just in your corner. I just want you to shine. I want you to
appreciate that.
Just go and be Dino, and let other people deal with the weight of who you are. Like, who cares?
Well, it's funny because I almost want to say, like I would say to my wife about other couples, like, is that an option? Like, I don't know, I could give up. Was that an option? I appreciate that. It's funny because I'm just doing me, right? And there's a lot of moments that I will look back on in life and go like, oh, that was hard. But all of it was totally worth it. And it's been, I have a couple of regrets of things that I wish I would have done better. I wish I, could have changed, but none of it to the point of going, life sucked. That wasn't worth it. It's all worth it. It's all a learning lesson. It's all something you could talk about from the stage. It's all everything. And that's unfortunate, right? And in some ways I look at everything will eventually be in my eulogy. But I also know that so much of it won't be. I just went to a funeral of a friend of mine right before Thanksgiving. And the fascinating thing about his eulogy was he wrote as an assignment in school at 12 years old, his eulogy. The teacher had them do this as an exercise. And the mom found this eulogy and packing up his things, going through his stuff, getting ready for this funeral, right?
So she outlived her son.
Oh, yeah. He unfortunately took his life in one of those situations where you're like, line up 100 guys, and he would not have been in the lineup, and he took his life. So she found his eulogy from when he was 12, and she read it. And it was so cute and funny, and he's going to marry a supermodel and have 4 degrees and all these things. And honestly, a lot of the stuff he did, like in the success realm, he didn't marry a supermodel. But he says he married he always would call his wife my hot wife. But sitting there in this funeral and listening to that, all of us, this is what I realized, is that we will all have some sort of funeral We will have some sort of eulogy. And no one could possibly wrap up a life in a 20-minute talk or a 30-minute talk or even a long book even. And I guess where I look at it is at the end of my life, God willing, I'll remember my life at the end of my life, that I'll know my story. And I'm only going to be able to remember most likely the highlights, but I don't have any lowlights because everything's a highlight. Everything in my life is a highlight. Even the crap, even the knocking doors, even the cars being repossessed, it's all a highlight. And I'll live with that. And the only thing I care about, and this is why the relationship with my wife is so important, the only thing I will care about in my life, I know this for a fact, is that if I'm blessed enough to be able to be in a bed when I die and pass away that way, the only thing that I will care about is the set of eyes that will be looking back at me. If it's all my kids, awesome, right? And my kids know this. There is a hierarchy in our home. And the one I care about the most are my wife's eyes. And so if I could live that way and end my life that way, she'll know my story. I'll know my story. That's it.
If people cared about the eyes of their spouse more than anything, I think so many of the woes that are plaguing our world today it would be a remedy to all of that. It's like, love the person in your life. Love the person that you've committed to, that you've been given. Love that person well.
And isn't it unfortunate that people really do think that that person's approval, that random person, that random group of people's approval is going to make me happy? And it's not. There's no way. And that's what's sad, is that you're always searching for another person's approval. There will always be another person. There'll always be the other person out there. In truth, it's only yours, right? The eyes you see in the mirror, in truth. Secondarily, right behind that, my spouse, Shannon's. Absolutely. Her green eyes. I'll see them forever.
Dino, you are a man that knows how to love well.
That was fun.
And
she makes it easy.
That's
not true. She doesn't make it easy.
How long have you been married now?
32 years. This is our 33rd year going on. Yeah. So we, like I said, knew each other when we met each other when we were 5. Got married when we were 22. I was 21. She was 22. 1994. Yeah.
Okay. So if someone's wanting to connect to your life, your world, enter your tribe, where's the best place for them to go?
DinoWatt.com is a really common place to go. Dino Watt Consulting is the same basic idea. Instagram, I'm on there. Facebook, I'm on there. Dino at DinoWatt.com is pretty easy to email me. It's pretty easy, but yeah, I like connecting with people. I think that the more connections I have, the better. I don't have a ton of friends. I have a lot of connections though.
Dino, it has been an absolute honor. Thank you so much for letting me interview you today.
Yeah, this is unexpected. I didn't know what to expect coming into this, honestly. But it was really fun. But I need to do more of this. This is fun. I like this format. Great job. Congratulations.
Thank you.